Some people like commercial, some people like multifamily. A lot of different ways to invest in real estate. Some like, taking land and getting it ready for a housing district or something like that. But there's so many different ways, and I thought there's definitely a way for me to get in this. I just know it.
Welcome to Multifamily Insights. I'm your host, John Casman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. If you are enjoying this show and getting some great value, we would love to hear about it. Leave us that rating and review. It helps us, and it also helps other listeners find this show. And listen, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We've got a great show today. We're going to be talking to Blaine McLaughlin. They say you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you want to grow as a multifamily investor, you have to spend more time with other multifamily investors. And an easy way to do that is to join our apartment investing mastermind group today. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the mastermind button. Now, as a part of this group, you'll get access to expert trainings, group coaching calls, industry news and updates, as well as all of our webinars and workshops, including our 3-hour workshop on raising capital. Again, if you want to be around other multifamily investors that can help you scale your portfolio today and grow your network, make sure you're a part of the Apartment Investing Mastermind. Just go to casmancapital.com and click on the Mastermind button today. Blaine McLaughlin has 29 years in dentistry and is the owner of a multi-million-dollar practice. On top of that, he's the owner of $2.5 million commercial building. He's the partial owner of over 1,300 units in multifamily in Dallas and Atlanta, and the partial owner in a build-to-rent project in an RV park. Let's welcome to the show, Blaine McLaughlin.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. This is pretty
Absolutely.
exciting. I'm happy. Hopefully I can share some insights and help other people out.
Absolutely. Blaine, great to talk to you. Great to have you on. I went over your bio at a very high level. Take 2 minutes and fill in some of those gaps.
All right. So yeah, I got out of dental school about 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago, and right away I started thinking, hey, real estate might be kind of cool. I don't know what inspired me to do that, so I read some of the Kiyosaki books and started getting involved in some multifamily real estate years ago. And as time went on, things didn't go extremely well with that. It was just kind of a silent partner, on the side type of thing. Had somebody else doing it for me. And so I just focused on my dental practice because that's what I do, right? I'm a dentist. I need to focus on my practice. So I did that, got that thing up running and humming. I have another partner with me now. It's doing really, really well. But a few years ago, I started looking at my retirement and realized that I was going to fall way short. And I'm like, why is this? And the stock market did me absolutely no favors, man. I tell you what, we're all taught, hey, let's invest in the market, put your money in your 401k. You'll have somebody else just, they'll invest for you and you'll build this nest egg. I mean, it grows at 8 to 10% and da 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 da. And by the time you get to retirement age, you're going to be set, right? Well, I found out my retirement has grown at 3% over the last 20, 25 years. All right. That is not going to cut it, man. So that really inspired me to take a different direction. And I'm like, I need to invest in something else for my retirement, for my family. And I really went gung ho back into real estate and mostly multifamily real estate. So there's your little. There's some holes filled there for you.
Blaine, I appreciate you sharing that. There's two elements of that I want to hit on. But first, you graduated from dental school, close to 30 years ago, focused on building up the practice, always had some interest in real estate, started off investing as a silent partner. And then really as you grew into your space, focusing on what you were doing, you started to pay more attention to your retirement and realizing that, wow, I don't have the money that I thought I would have to retire comfortably. And when you started calculating your actual returns, you realize that your investments have only grown at a 3% clip, not that 8 to
Yeah,
10% that so many people reference. And that got you back focused on real estate. A couple things.
you
One,
bet.
when you started off looking at real estate, you mentioned you were a silent partner. What kind of deals were you investing in? What kind of structure? Was this like loans? Was this like LPN deals? What kind of structures were you doing?
Well, after reading the Kiyosaki books, I'm like, hey, this sounds like a good deal. There's multiple ways of growing income if you invest in multifamily real estate. And so I'm like, and right about that time, I had one young kid. I have 3 kids now. They're all college age. But I had one young daughter, and I'm like, if I buy a fourplex around here, maybe if I put down $100,000, right, for this fourplex, if I put down 25 grand, invest in this fourplex, 100 grand, 20 years from now, I'll have it paid off because the rents will pay for it, right? So that's great. I'll get some appreciation. In Iowa, I'm in Iowa. You don't get a ton of appreciation, but you get slow, steady growth. And I figured, man, it's going to be worth a couple 100,000. Maybe I'll hold it and sell it, and then bam, well, I'll have some college money to help pay for my kids' college. And so that was my plan. And I got involved with a local guy who's a super dude, friend of mine, neighbor, kind of stuff. That's what he does. And he kind of got, and we looked at some stuff, and then he got me involved in some other sort of JV deals, joint venture kind of things where you get 5 people buying a 20plex or 5 people buying a commercial building, and then that kind of stuff. And so I started kind of building. I've invested in 3 or 4 different things with him, and then it almost turned into kind of like a fund, right? So it kind of pooled all together, and again, the returns just weren't there. And we had one deal go a commercial deal. A tenant went left who was paying about half the rent, and then the bank wouldn't refinance us, so the bank took it over. And so I had to deal with some of those heartaches, I guess. And of course, something like that goes down, and it's like, wow, I'm thinking, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Maybe this isn't what I learned. And I'm a dentist. I should just focus on my practice. So, that pushed me back into the practice. And so I let some of the other deals ride for another 10 or 15 years, and they just weren't producing much for cash. And, I kind of said, hey, can I get out of this? So this guy I worked with got this really a large fund of real estate, and he's got a whole bunch of investors. And so they just kind of bought me out a few years ago. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed. And then I took some other classes once I learned about the 3% return I was getting from the stock market. And so I took some other classes and educated myself, and realized, hey, there's a different way of doing this than what I did before. So
Blaine, I appreciate you being a little vulnerable and sharing that, because I think it's helpful for us to learn from these experiences, right? Because it sounds like you did everything the right way. You took all the things people say, right? You read the
yeah,
Kiyosaki books,
you know
you
it.
had your money in your 401k, you had a great job, great business that's growing, started investing in real estate passively. What could go wrong, right? It sounds like you did
Yeah,
everything right, but obviously you had the deals that didn't manufacture the returns you were looking for. And then I think that made you say, okay, well, at least I got my 401k. And you take a look at that, and you're like, wait a minute, what? This is only growing at 3%.
what the heck
So
is
I can
this?
only imagine, again, being a very successful, hardworking, professional in your field. You're, running this practice. It's like, where's my money? Like, where is
Yeah,
everything at,
yeah.
right? So for those folks who are listening who don't want to find themselves in that situation, what are some of the lessons you learned? Now, let's start with the real estate, and then I do want to talk about the retirement side of it. But as you reflect back, you mentioned that you educated yourself. What would you have done differently as a real estate investor in those early years?
Well, I kind of put my trust in this guy. I mean, he's a really nice guy, and I've known him forever, and that's what he does. And so I put my trust in him, going, hey, can you help me with this? And he's like, sure, I'll do what I can. And that was great. But I, other than reading a few books, again, Kiyosaki books, um, I didn't educate myself on anything. So I knew nothing about what I was getting into. And that's the number one key. If you're gonna do something, you got to have the basic information. So, like I said, when I realized my retirement plan was not doing what I wanted, and I got back into real estate, I said, okay, this time, number one, I'm gonna educate myself and figure out what is going on, what I want to do, and what works for me and my family. Because there's tons of ways to invest in real estate, out there. And so that was number one. I'm like, I got to educate myself on this. Number two, I got to surround myself with good people, and that's one of the things I've always done in my dental practice. When we hire people, we're very careful who we hire. We want to make sure we hire good quality people. We just don't want a body in there, right? Like, gosh, we're really short in this area. We really need somebody here. yeah, there's a couple people we could hire, but they don't fit. They don't fit. They don't think the way I do, and they don't understand the way I think. So you got to surround yourself with good people, and so that got me involved in a investment group or a real estate group out of Texas, and so I started learning everything I could from them, and again just going to events and surrounding myself with people who've done it, because this isn't anything new. We don't need to write. I don't need to create anything brand new. I just need to follow the people who've done this, because if I can do that and get involved with them, they'll show me the way. Because most of these people are so happy to just kind of like what I'm doing. I just want to help people not have a 3% return on their retirement, right? And that's why I'm doing this. And so many people in real estate, it's they're so willing to help and give back to people like me who are learning the ways. So
No, I appreciate that, Blaine. You mentioned one, you would educate yourself. You really didn't know that much outside of reading the book, so you put all your trust into this individual, but you really didn't
yeah.
understand, maybe the deals and some of the potential risk and how some decisions are being made or what those key influencers were. So the first thing you did was educate yourself. The second thing was surround yourself with good people. I want to push you just a little bit here because I think us Midwesterners, we always like to find the good in people. So, I think we
Hmm.
always lean on finding the good in people we encounter with. And I've had to learn the hard way as well to be a bit more discerning on that. How do you define good people? And more specifically, what are the things you're looking for? Because again, most people are nice and, oh, it's a cool guy, whatever. But ultimately, if you're going to look to partner with somebody, invest with somebody, you have to have some specific things you're looking for to qualify them to say, okay, this is someone who I do want to work with. And you mentioned in your practice, you do the same thing. So just give us a little context of what kind of either tools, red flags, like what are you doing to qualify? Hey, this is someone I should do business with.
Great question. When everybody looks at Google, if they have a business or whatever, you look at your Google reviews, right? And so that can actually tell you quite a bit about what's going on. Well, a lot of people you're investing with don't have Google reviews, right? You're not going to go, hey, this guy wants me to invest in this deal here. Um, Check out his Google reviews. You sometimes can get some. What I do is I go to these meetings and there's 1,000 people there, right? And so you're just networking and you're meeting people. And if you have a deal that you come across and you're talking with somebody, I want them to be real, number one, you know, and a lot of times you can, a quick hi, how you doing, what's going on is one thing. But if you can go out and, this is my style, I'll go out and have a glass of wine or a beer or somebody with somebody and talk to them for 15, 20 minutes, right? And when they get into that relaxed state, that's when I think you can see a little more behind what they're about. Learn maybe a little bit about their family. What are they doing? Are they support? I mean, yeah, I got to do this, but I'm taking my kids, and I got to make sure my kids get to practice and stuff, and blah blah blah. So I can't meet, or I had to do this, and so I couldn't make this meeting, and so see how oriented they are towards that, and again, you can kind of tell if they're geared to family people. I think are great for me. I like that. I think they have good values, and I talked about the Google reviews. Kind of back to that. I mean, you can ask around. Hey, I heard this deal was going down, and so you ask a few other people, and they'll tell you. Again, they've been around the group for I've been trained for probably 3 or 4 years with this group, and some of these people have been around for 10 or 12. And so again, find the people who have been there and done that, and get their opinion on it too. And that's kind of like a Google review is other people's opinion, because they know what's been going on for several years, and how deals have been going and how these people treat other people. So
I love it, man. You talked about a couple things there. One is really just, trusting your gut. And part of that is getting to know people, right? You have to make sure you know, like, and trust them, not just
I like and
as
trust.
investors, but as humans. Who are they at
Yes,
their
so
core?
true,
Is
so
this the kind
true.
of person who is going to do the right thing? Is this a family oriented person? Is this someone who, is only looking at numbers? I always like to ask the question, tell me about a deal that didn't pan out or didn't go according to plan. and just see how they talk. Are they blaming the contractor? Don't get me wrong, it could completely be the contractor's fault. But somebody had to hire that contractor. Somebody had to have a vetting process, right? Do you take accountability for that, or are you simply passing the buck? So those are the things that I'm listening for
Yeah.
when I'm talking to people, right? Just seeing, hey, are you improving? Every company, every business has made a mistake, right? The best
Hmm.
leaders in the world learn from those mistakes, make adjustments so they don't repeat those mistakes. So I'm always listening for
Well,
that. Yeah, go ahead.
I say, and you talk about that, and I go back to my early history in real estate and the deals that I was in that didn't kind of pan out very well, and the one that got foreclosed on and that kind of stuff. And man, I learned so much from that. I didn't know it at the time, but now that I'm coming around and digging deeper into how to invest, what's the best way to invest, where to invest, a lot of those answers like, oh my gosh, I know why that deal didn't work. I know why that didn't work. If they had done this, it would have been better, you know. And so at the time, I was learning a ton and had no idea I was. But yeah, so that's great. You learn a lot from your mistakes. There's no doubt.
And that's the second part, right? It's partnering with people who have that experience, that social credibility, the proof, the track record. And if you've had that, someone's been in business for a while, you can ask around, you can talk to other investors, you can understand the way they think. And even if they're newer to the space, how knowledgeable are they, right? Just because you haven't done a deal doesn't mean you're not fully prepared. If they've done their research, they understand the market, they have a strong business plan, they've surrounded themselves with experienced individuals, they can be successful. The problem lies where you have someone who maybe is relatively inexperienced, doesn't have that experience on the team, and doesn't have the foresight to anticipate challenges that may arise in the operation. So that's one of the things that you always want to pay attention to. So I love the points you made, really talking about getting to know the individual, but also leaning on those referrals or that social credibility for the people you're working with. Let's transition. I want to go back to, talk about the retirement plan because I think so many people are, starting to pay more attention to that. So getting up, we're all getting up there in age, whether we want to admit it or not. And that has to be something that's on your mind is okay, am I on course? Am I, on the right track? You know, inflation has gone up so much. The number you thought
Mm.
was your target number 5, 10, 15 years ago may no longer be sufficient. So maybe you need to recalibrate that. And if you haven't done so in a long time, it's probably a good time now to sit down, look at where you're at with your retirement funds, look at the age of retirement and how long you plan on living. Well, I should say plan on living, but the longevity, your life expectancy, and understand, hey, am I on the right track or not? And you should do this individually with a financial advisor, however you want to do it. When you went through that process, you realized that, oh my goodness, I've only been making a 3% return. How did you process that? And how did you land on the notion of, okay, I really need to go back to real estate despite the challenges you faced previously?
Well, the first thing I did is cried, and, and I mean that was I'm looking at this going, this is how much I have, and I'm like, I put in a certain amount of money in here for so long, and I've been very consistent, right? You start early, and I started a couple years out of college. I loans paid off, right? Once my school loans are paid off, bam, I'm investing like I'm told, solid or set amount pretty much every month for years, right? And I look at my number and go, God, that just doesn't seem like that much. And so then I did the back calculations and I was punching in percentage numbers. I've been doing this much, blah, blah, and this is what I have. And I'm like 3%. And it's like, oh God, are you kidding me? And yeah, the first thing is like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not doing this. And it happened to be, it's kind of funny about that time, my buddy who I went to dental school with, he was doing the same thing. Our kids are about the same age. They're all in college, right? So it's like, okay, empty nester, what's next? Maybe retirement. Okay. And so we started thinking the same thing about the same time. And I was talking to him and I said, oh my God, can you believe this? He goes, yeah, I can. And he's like, hey, I have a buddy who's going to a real estate class, a course. It's like a 3-day course in Dallas. And he goes, are you interested in going? I said, yes. And it just snapped right there and there because I've always liked real estate. I just realized I didn't think I knew enough about it. And I said, I'll go because I have to learn about some other way. And that opportunity presented itself right then and there. And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. Let's go. And so we went, and again, I go through this 3-day course, and they're talking about here's how to invest in this deal, and here's what to do with this. And I'm like, and then it started clicking, going, that's why those deals I was in didn't work, like I said before. And so then I started to get excited. I'm like, yeah, this is it. And it could be, some people like commercial, some people like multifamily, a lot of different ways to invest in real estate. Some like, land, and taking land and getting it ready for a housing district or something like that. But there's so many different ways. And I thought there's definitely a way for me to get in this. I just know it.
Blaine, I love what you just said because you recognized what you were doing wasn't working. And I think
Yeah.
so often people know it's not working, but then when a solution is presented, they shut down or they want to turn it away, especially if it's something you've tried in the past. What you talked about, though, was saying, hey, I know real estate works. I have enough proof in the world from, the folks I've
Yes.
seen, podcasts, books, whatever. I know real estate works. It's not the real estate that's the issue, but the way I did it. My business plan, the investments I've made, they just didn't work. So I've got to figure out why what I did doesn't work and how to do it better. And it is so critical. If you've ever invested in real estate or had projects that didn't pan out, or maybe you took a hiatus, a lot of people I talk to, like, yeah, I had some properties back in the early 2000s. And then, the economic crash hit and I sold everything or I lost it. And I've been out of
Mhm.
real estate now for 15 years and I want to get back into it. It wasn't the real estate, okay? It was your business plan. And sometimes you're going to be impacted by the market a little bit, but it's understanding that portion of it, right? If you're investing for the long haul, real estate tends to go up in value over that time frame. So I love the fact that you recalibrated, said, hey, I wasn't educated. You took responsibility for yourself to say, hey, I need to educate myself. And then I need to do a better job of figuring out how to find and vet the right partners. And if I can do that, now I'm going to
Yeah.
be better positioned to have success. I mentioned earlier in your bio about kind of the portfolio, but just remind everybody, where are you at today as far as your investments?
Well, I've done the one I have is my office building. So I do one commercial building, and that's the building I own for my dental office. And I have two other tenants in that building, and it's doing extremely well. And so that's how real estate should be. I have some great tenants that pay me, right? And so I've owned that building for 14 years, and then I started getting into more multifamily. So one of the things that typically I'm involved in is value add multifamily. So you'll buy an apartment complex, 80 units and above, with a group of people called a syndication. Um, and then say it's 30, 40 years old. And so you go in there and you upgrade what's going on in the property. So you give it a nice floor, nice countertop, redo the kitchen, bathrooms, and stuff like that, make it nicer. If you make it nicer, typically people will pay more for it, right? So then you can increase rents. And once you increase rents, the value of the property goes up. And so that's kind of where I sit. I think I again, some people count doors. I'm in 6 or 7 different investments. Like I said, 1,300 doors or something like that. As an investor, partial owner of these places, I have an RV park that I'm invested in just as a passive investor. Those are fascinating because COVID has totally turned the RV world upside down, right? I mean, everybody's like, we got to get out, and so. Um, I think those are great. I don't know a ton about it. I want to learn more about that kind of thing. And then the build to rent. With housing prices going up so much in the last few years, interest rates, skyrocketing the last 2 years. Owning a house is so hard to do for so many people. And so this property in north of Dallas, we're building 118 units of build to rent. So you build, like, they're single family homes. They're kind of like condos or duplexes, and you build these things, and then instead of selling them, you rent them out, and that way people can have they come into their place. There's nobody above them. There's nobody below them, like an apartment, but they have their own garage. they have their own home, they have their own backyard, and so they get the feel of having a home without having to put down a ridiculous down payment, paying crazy interest rates and stuff like that. And you know, the world is transient now compared to 20 years ago or 30 years ago when I was out of school. People are moving around a lot more, and so they don't want to be tied down. And so instead of buying a house and going, oh, yeah, my job's moving me out here, or I want to move over here to this part of the country, um, you know, now I got to sell my house and do all that. Well, it's easy. You know, it's like, okay, my rent is done, and then I just go and move off somewhere else. So I think people like that. I'm excited, so excited about the build to rent. It's in the process of going up right now. So, but those are, yeah, those that's where I stand, and super excited about all this stuff and where real estate's headed.
I love that you're in different asset classes. You talked about your commercial office building that you own, that you have for 14 years, value add multifamily, build to rent communities, RV parks. And a reason it's great is you started by saying, hey, I need to educate myself. Educating yourself doesn't mean you have to become an expert at every single asset class. Part of educating yourself means find those people who are experts and have that
Right,
knowledge
right.
in that
Yeah.
asset class, and you can partner there. So you can still get that diversification within commercial real estate without having to learn every single thing there is to know about every single asset class. So I love that you've done that. The other
Yeah,
thing
can I
is,
say something real quick
sure,
about
yeah.
diversification? Not to interrupt you, sorry about that, but you know, everybody they always talk about in your 401k you're supposed to diversify. And so they put you in a bunch of different stocks or a bunch of mutual funds. Well, is that really diversification? I mean, so you know, people like, oh, you just do all real estate. I said, no, I still have money in the stock market, but to really diversify is to get out of the stock market and do something else. And real estate's a great way to diversify, and just spread things out. So if the stock market doesn't do well, well, your real estate's doing okay. And so that's I wanted to make that point for a lot of people.
No, I think it's a great point to make. I mean, sometimes it it feels obvious, but you have to stop and think and process. And a lot of times we're all so busy running around that you don't get to think of it. But to your point, having your funds in different stocks isn't real diversification, right? It's still the stock
Right,
market.
right.
And there are people who all they do all day is just trade stocks, and the entire stock market goes up and down at once, not necessarily just individual companies. So you definitely want to make sure you're diversifying from that standpoint. Hey, one other thing you talked about was, you taking a look at your portfolio, realizing you're only seeing a 3% return. I hope this triggers people listening to take a look at their own portfolio
Hmm.
and figure out where they're at in regards to their own retirement journey. I know you got a website with some great resources. CanIRetireCalculator.com is a calculator you put together to help people understand how that time frame looks. What can people get when they go to that website and check that out?
Well, I mean, they get a calculator, right? And so you can put all your numbers in and go, how old am I, and what am I doing, and how much do I have, and how much do I put in, and how many more years am I going to put stuff in, and it give you again a good idea of, hey, if I want to retire at 62, or I want to retire at 68 or 58, whatever, where will I stand? And it'll show you the numbers, and it'll show you the numbers of what if I do the stock market, and the stock market goes up at 5%, as opposed to, well, which would be great for me. But real estate, I mean, a lot of real estate deals, you can get 12, 15, 18% returns on your money. And so I think, you know, there's certainly some risk out there. We don't want to, you know, not talk about that because there's definitely risk. But so it'll give you an idea of, if I invest here, if I invest here, if my returns are this is where I'm going to have, and this is what I have at retirement. And then you got to figure out, what's your lifestyle? Is that enough? Well, you know, $1 million is more than enough for somebody who's like, hey, I just love to garden. And I'm going to garden all summer long, and you know, hang out with my grandkids who in my town, and that's all I want to do. I mean, that's not a huge expense probably. Whereas if, hey, I want to travel the world and I want to see everything and I want to go climb Everest or whatever, I mean, that takes a lot of time and a lot of money to do that. So that's something you have to figure out yourself. But this will give you some numbers on where you can go, and then it gives you, of course, ways to contact me so that I can you know, guide you if you're interested in multifamily real estate investing. So
Yeah, check that out at caniretirecalculator.com. Blaine, for that person who is In your shoes, maybe when you first went through that process, they're interested in real estate, but they want to avoid some of the pitfalls and mistakes. What's the biggest piece of advice you could give them to help them see success?
Well, I kind of already went over that, but it's educate yourself on different things. Find out what you enjoy, what's your passion, what you're excited about, and then surround yourself with great people. And again, that's been so key to my dental office is just having great people work for me. And everybody's like, "Oh, your office is great." I said, "Well, it's not really my office; it's our office. I just happen to hire these awesome people that think like I do, and they've made it great and make me look really good." So those are two major invest in yourself. Invest in yourself and find great people that are doing what you want to do.
I love it. Let's transition to our round of insights. Blaine, give me a failure or an apparent failure that set you up for later success.
Well, again, I mentioned that one too. Well, I'll go a different route here. Um, so when I got out of dental school, we have to take an exam called the board exam. And and boards are like a 1 day test where you do all these clinical stuff and whatever. And everybody takes that, and you have to pass that in order to get your dental license. And they revamped the whole test the year I took it. And so we had about 2/3 to 3/4 of our class did not pass, and usually it was about 6 to 8%. And so all of a sudden, we're all coming out of dental school going, we got these jobs lined up. We don't pass boards, we don't get licensed. We're like, dang it. And so that was like, I was just freaking out. And so anyway, I ended up I had to retake the boards. And so I wasn't able to do that for a couple months. And so I'm like, well, I'm sitting around here for 2 months. What am I going to do? So I went and worked for a dental lab. And so I learned the insights of what happened in that dental lab and how they helped dentists create restorations and stuff that people need in order to rebuild their mouths, and seeing it from a totally different direction than the dental side. And so again, I went out there and I did something, right? I didn't sit around and I pouted for a couple of days, but but I went out and did something. I'm like, how can I turn this into something good? And that education I had from going in the dental lab and learning that was so huge for me. And I learned it so much about how to make things better when I finally got licensed and got out in the real world. So that was a huge setback that turned out to be really, really, really good for me.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
A mobile resource. I have an app that is it's called Reps Tracker, and for we could go on and on about how I invest in real estate, but there's a thing called professional real estate status, which allows you to change allows you to use minimize your taxes legally. And in order to be a professional real estate status, you have to have certain hours and certain number of education and certain number of hours where you're working on real estate. And so the IRS is really onto people. I mean, they don't let you, if you claim that, there's a good chance you'll get audited and they'll want to know what you're doing. And so that Reps Tracker app helps you organize all your hours and lays it out. This is what I was doing. This is why I'm doing this, and blah, blah, blah. And so, that's a great resource for people who are getting into real estate and doing it more than just on the side.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
In the last year, it's the same book I've recommended for decades. It's called The Slight Edge, and it has nothing to do with real estate, but it's by Jeff Olson. And the premise of it is basically, if you do little things over and over again, consistently, it'll turn into something big. Most people look at things and go, if I eat this cheeseburger today, is that going to kill me? No, it's not going to kill me. It's going to taste good. I'll be fine. But if you do that consistently, every day for year after year, yeah, you're going to have some trouble, right? Um, and it goes back to the other thing. If I invest in something, one little thing, whether it's your relationship with your wife, or something at work, or I'm going to go do 20 push-ups. If you do 20 push-ups every day for 20 years, they're going to get pretty easy, right? And so that's kind of the whole premise is little things done consistently over and over and over can have huge benefits as you move on. So Slight Edge, fantastic book.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Daily habit. Well, I always like to work out stress reduction, which is key in life, because that's one of the big killers for people, and hurts their health a lot. So one of my daily habits is just I got to work out, and I'm consistently, and it kind of goes back to the Slight Edge. It's like, don't want to do this, but if I do every day, just a little bit, maybe it's not a long work, maybe it's just a half hour on the treadmill, something. It reduces my stress. It helps me refocus where I want to go, and I always say sometimes I'll listen to podcasts when I'm doing it or something like that, and it kind of reduces my stress of my general life, and gets me focused on where I need to go and what the next step is for me to make things happen.
Give me your number one insight for real estate investing.
Number one insight for real estate investing is you gotta do it now. One of the biggest risks that people take, and they don't even know it, is doing nothing. And if you sit there and you do nothing, you're not get anywhere. And my buddy and I, Matt, on our podcast called Happy Trails, we talk about this a lot. The best time to invest is yesterday, but the second best time is today. And get out there and do something, and get going, and make something happen, because it's not gonna fall in your lap. You got to go after it.
I love it, man. You mentioned that you're in Iowa, you're in Cedar Rapids. Give us your favorite place to grab a bite to eat.
Favorite place to grab a bite? Well, I have to tell you, one of my favorite places is a place called Wine Styles, and it's a little wine store. They have craft beer and wine, and they have these great little pizzas. They're fantastic. You wouldn't think it when you go in there, but the atmosphere is great. I also own it, so but it's an awesome place, which is why I own it.
There you go. Well, it's great to have a place you can call home, right? So great to hear.
Yeah.
Wine Style, you said, right?
Wine Styles. Yep.
Wine Styles. Love it. Blaine, you have some great information today, talking to us about, your background in the dentist world, really talking about your retirement account, investing passively, and realizing that you weren't making the returns that you thought you were making. And after years and years, you took really an inventory of your retirement portfolio and your retirement position, and decided that you needed to make a change. And I love the fact that you took action. You made a decision. You got an opportunity to go to an event. You took that opportunity. You started to invest, and you learned to educate yourself and to find people to invest with. And I love the fact that you did that. And that's a great takeaway for all of our listeners today. Again, if you want to learn more about Blaine, his company, and some of the resources, check out that calculator he has. You can go to caniretiredcalculator.com, and we'll also put a link to your Happy Trails podcast in the show notes. Blaine, thanks again for being a great guest and coming on Multifamily Insights. We look forward to staying in touch with you, and I hope you have a great day.